I don't think our brand of rock and roll will ever really go away. If it was, it would have gone away a long, long time ago. We didn't really do a record that we thought would ever come out. You know, I just did that for fun, like a record I would like. Actually, it was an album for us. I mean, I really, really didn't think it would ever come out. That's why the songs are 15 minutes. I mean, it was like, let's do an album that I really like, you know. I like to think of it as the album I wanted to do when I was 16 years old, but didn't know how to do it. This really is my favorite record. I'm glad I had that particular album to come back with because I feel like I can stand behind it. This goes really, really way back to the 60s. I mean, when I said that I was going to do a record that I liked, I just drew on my own experience from 67, you know, till 70. And I basically made the record of that time. Because all of my influences in this record are very much from the late 60s. Eye of the Storm, and then when I found the web page dedicated to us by this guy Willie Parsons, I started talking to the fans on the site, and the fans on the site basically said, "You've got to go back on the road. Like, we'd really like to see you." So we decided to put the album out and go back on the road. And I didn't really know I would ever come out again. It's just because I saw that response on the page from the fans, and basically I was talked into it, and I'm glad they did. I used to say that we made psychedelic music, you know. What was psychedelic music? Well, it was Eye of the Storm in the 60s. That was psychedelic music. In the 70s, bands came out that had keyboards and, you know, Pink Floyd, stuff like that. They started doing a new class of psychedelic music, and then what we did became classed as metal or hard rock. But in actuality, what we did was psychedelic music. Hard rock and metal was something else, like totally something else. It was more like Ozzy Osbourne or Black Sabbath or something. I'm back to doing what I consider psychedelic music. When I was coming up in the 60s, late 60s and early 70s, Canada was the type of country where radio really dominated quite a bit. And the type of bands that got on the radio, right off the bat, they were bands that had harmony vocals. This was number one. You just didn't have blues or rock artists getting on the radio. And if bands did play a form of blues or rock, they did it with three-part harmonies. It was sort of pretty music. We were a very, very underground group playing 60s rock, 60s blues, psychedelic music, one vocalist, three-piece band. We were everything that radio didn't want to hear in Canada. So what happened was we were never part of that clique, if you want to call it that. But in the province of Quebec, things were always a little different. We were the first people here to get into different kinds of music. The Quebec audience would go crazy for this kind of music. There would be thousands of people for it, and they'd all be rocking and rolling. Consequently, it was the fans of Quebec that really gave us our chance to go to America, because when the American guys came here to watch us playing in a cornfield, they freaked out not on the band, because those guys in the record companies don't know anything about music, but they freaked out on the crowds. They freaked out on the reaction that we were getting from the crowds, and they said, "Hey, there's something going on here," and that's why they signed us. So, without the Quebec crowds, I don't think we'd have ever left Montreal. tell you about the California Jam or the Day on the Green concerts for Bill Graham. You know, these were all shows of 80,000, 100,000. One was 300,000 people. I mean, everyone was preening for cameras and pretending to be something that they were not. That is not what rock and roll was when we started it. It was not what Woodstock really was in '69, but it's what people thought it was in the '70s. The actual highlights for me would be the times that we go on the road and we just play to the types of fans in a second or third market that never get that kind of rock and roll. They're told that they have to live in New York, or they have to live in Montreal, or they have to live in Boston in order to see a real rock concert. And so they travel to these cities to see them. But when you take that show out to some of these smaller markets and you play that kind of show for those markets, this is where you get the real fan appreciation, where you really get to the grassroots. And for me, that's always been a real highlight. Not many people would understand that unless they've done it. Rock and roll of the nature that we do comes back all the time. I look at it as the good wife, you know, and the mistresses come and go, and then the good wife comes back.